Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to take you on a bit of a journey through a really interesting mix of sources.
Yeah, we've got Nigerian news headlines, some surprising did you know facts, and moments from today in history.
Exactly. The core is Nigerian news, politics, economy, and society from June 27, 2025. But we've added those other nuggets, to spark some connections.
Make it stick a bit more.
Right. So our mission here is simple. Pull out the key insights, connect the dots for you, and give you a solid, quick grasp of the day's pulse.
Unpack the big stuff. Find those surprising links. Hopefully leave you feeling pretty well informed. It's quite a dynamic picture today.
Definitely. You can really see how policy, the economy, social stuff, it's all tangled together.
It really is. So where should we start?
Okay, let's jump right into policy and governance in Nigeria. We're seeing moves on new tax laws.
Ah, yes. President Tinubu mentioned they're aimed at opening up the economy.
But there's a key detail from an official, Oyedele, right, about an exemption.
Well, that's right. He clarified that Nigerians earning less than N$250,000 a month, well, they're exempt from this new tax.
Okay, so that's pretty significant, focusing the burden elsewhere, maybe.
Seems like it. Easing things for lower earners, perhaps broadening the base overall. And once these bills are signed, they could really shake up the federal revenue agencies.
New mandates, more scrutiny, maybe?
Probably. And related to finances, this thing about the federal government running 3 budgets at the same time, that's quite something.
3, yeah, I saw that. What's the thinking there, based on the sources?
Well, it seems to be about managing different streams of money, different pots, basically.
Yeah, like statutory funds, borrowing specific projects.
Exactly. Or maybe different phases of planning. It points to a really complex financial strategy they're trying to juggle.
Okay, makes a certain kind of sense when you put it like that. And the president, he's not just looking at money, is he? Directives for the civil service, too.
Right. Pushing for personnel audits and a shift away from, I think he called it,
passive bureaucracy.
Yeah, towards a more digital system efficiency push.
And he's also ordered action on bus terminals tackling those awful one-chance robberies.
Like are terrifying, yeah?
And trying to ease traffic in the FCT. But interestingly, he declined to sign the NDLEA amendment bill.
That's worth noting. Now, if we zoom out a bit, connect this to the bigger economic picture.
Okay.
Nigeria, along with Egypt, is leading Africa in remittance inflows. We're talking a massive $95 billion.
Wow, $95 billion. That's money sent home from abroad, right?
Yeah.
Huge capital stream.
Absolutely huge. But here's the flip side, a major challenge. Bank says Nigeria loses about $1.1 billion every year to medical tourism.
Oof, $1.1 billion. That's a serious drain on foreign reserves and, bad for local healthcare.
Precisely. And speaking of economic puzzles, this one's a big one.
Go on.
Nigeria exports something like 82% of its crude oil. 82%.
Okay.
While its own local refineries are reportedly, starved of that same crude.
Wait, really? So we export the raw stuff and
then often have to import refined products, sometimes paying more for them. It's a stark contrast.
That is a puzzle. Affects fuel prices, energy security, everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's clearly on people's minds. The NGX chairman is actually asking Dangote to list his massive refinery on the stock exchange.
Ah, interesting. What would listing it publicly achieve?
Yeah.
More transparency, capital?
Potentially all of that.
Yeah.
Transparency, public ownership stake.
Yeah.
Maybe more cash for Dangote to improve things, which could help, fill that domestic refining gap we were just talking about.
Got it. And adding to the economic woes, Nigeria's exports to other African countries, they've crashed.
By a huge $631.5 billion. That's a big blow to regional trade.
Wow. Okay, so amidst all this high-level economic stuff, we're also seeing the direct impact on people.
Definitely. Like the NEL-FND loan scheme, the education loan.
Yeah.
Already 6,000 students just from Unilag, the University of Lagos, have applied. Shows the need, right?
Clearly a huge demand for financial support for students, and the government's unveiled a flood insurance plan. That seems proactive.
It does, especially with climate change concerns and, how often flooding hits certain areas. But then you also see FCT workers gearing up for protests over poor welfare.
Right. So policy versus ground reality, those persistent concerns about basic living conditions.
Exactly. It's a constant tension. Now, shifting gears a bit towards security and social well-being.
Okay. What are the headlines telling us there?
Well, the Senate is actually urging the federal government to look for foreign help and upgrade military equipment to tackle insecurity.
Seeking outside assistance. That suggests the challenges are, pretty severe.
It does seem like an acknowledgement that maybe current strategies aren't quite enough. And on the ground, the Chief of Defense Staff ordered immediate arrests in Benue State for anyone with illegal weapons.
And he assured people Benue is secured, and IDPs, the displaced persons, will return soon.
That's the assurance given, yes. Crucial for stability there. But it's alongside the tragic news, the Army flags flying at half-mast for 17 soldiers killed.
Such a somber reminder of the cost.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, in law enforcement, quite a range of things happening.
Yeah.
Police rescued 46 trafficking victims coming from Ghana.
Wow. Okay, good news there.
Yeah. But also ongoing probes, like an officer's retirement pay claim in a viral video, and investigating that sad case of a woman's body found in a gutter in Akwa Ibom.
Grim stuff. And some serious alleged crimes, an Ondo chief arrested for kidnapping and sexual assault.
Yes. And there's a call for justice for an 11-year-old girl abused in Kwara. It's deeply disturbing.
It really is. And the courts, are they active?
Seems so. The NJC, the Judicial Council, recommended sacking 10 judges in Imo State for supposedly falsifying their ages.
10 judges. Wow.
Yeah. And in another case, a court wouldn't let the EFCC cross-examine a witness in the Bello trial. And then a really stark verdict. A gospel artist sentenced to death by hanging for killing a Youth Corps member in Nasarawa.
Heavy. It really covers the whole spectrum of the justice system, doesn't it?
It does. But let's pivot to some more positive community and health initiatives.
Francis, need some good news.
Okay, so Lagos is pushing people to use its free maternal and health services. Great for access.
Definitely.
The federal government is helping about 2,700 vulnerable patients in Bauchi and Jigawa get health care too. And Pepsodent's doing a massive oral health campaign for 2.7 million school kids.
That's huge reach.
And even the NDLEA, the drug agency, is reporting that clients from their rehab programs are now doing really well academically.
Oh, that's fantastic. Shows rehabilitation can work.
It really does. More good news. 20 areas in Kano are now certified open defecation free. That's a big public health win.
Huge for sanitation and health.
And UNICEF praised husbands in Bauchi for supporting immunization campaigns. That signals a positive shift, getting men involved.
Yeah, community buy-in. And what about empowerment?
Credit Corp gave 100 women in River State tricycles, helping them earn, be more mobile, real grassroots impact.
That's great to see. Okay, what about state-level politics? Always dynamic.
Always. President Tinubu apparently stepped in to reunite Wike, Fubara, and lawmakers in River State, trying to calm that ongoing crisis.
But is it calm? I saw Fubara and Amahol met other lawmakers, too.
Exactly. Suggests it's still pretty fluid, that situation. Elsewhere, Governor Makanda renamed the Polytechnic in Ibadan after a former governor, Olunloyo.
Okay. And actual elections happening soon.
By-elections set for August 16th across 12 states. And politically, the Labour Party lost a representative in Enugu to the APC.
Party switching continues, and Katsina's governor ordered a census.
Yeah, of Almajiri and Islamia schools, those informal religious schools, that could have big implications for child welfare and education policy there.
Definitely one to watch. What's happening in Lagos? Always something.
Gridlock, as usual. So they're advising residents about remote work options. And interestingly, planning to add arts to their STEM policy, making it STEAM.
STEAM, right. Recognizing creativity's role. That's forward thinking.
It is, but not all smooth sailing. Outrage over politician Okpebholo's plan to return schools to the Catholic mission. And NLGE, the local government union, is rejecting Austin State transferring funds to APC chairman.
So, controversy there, but then you get a story like that tricycle rider in Ubia.
Oh yeah, returning $4 million left behind by a passenger.
Incredible integrity. It really shows you the whole range of human behavior, doesn't it? From high-level policy down to individual acts.
Absolutely. Now, should we take a quick look beyond Nigeria? And then maybe some fun facts?
Let's do it. Global glimpse first.
Okay, brief one. Iran stated that a war with Israel caused, quote, serious damage to its nuclear sites.
Right. That's obviously a major geopolitical point. Lots of potential ripples from that.
Definitely. Okay, now for something completely different, did you know facts?
Hit me.
The guy who invented the Rubik's Cube, Erno Rubik, it took him a month to figure out how to solve it after he made it.
No way. A whole month. And now people solve it in like seconds.
The record as of June 2018 was 4.22 seconds. Mind-boggling.
That's just, wow. Human potential, eh?
Speaking of which, here's a more serious one from Harvard.
Oh.
A study found having no friends can be just as deadly as smoking.
Seriously, as deadly as smoking?
Yeah. Apparently, both social isolation and smoking affect levels of fibrinogen, a blood-clotting protein, in similar negative ways.
That's profound. Really makes you think about health and, well, human connection in a totally different way.
Doesn't it? It suggests our social lives are biologically critical, just as important as not smoking or eating right.
Wow. Okay, one more stop. Today in history.
On this day, June 27th, 1954, the world's very first nuclear power plant started up in Obninsk, Russia.
The first one. And it ran for how long?
Almost 50 years.
Yeah.
48 years, actually. And now there are, around 400 atomic power plants globally?
From one experimental plant to 400, amazing progress, or maybe scary progress, depending on how you look at it.
It definitely shows how far technology can come, which ties nicely into that Norman Vincent Peale quote.
Which one's that?
People become really quite remarkable when they start thinking that they can do things.
Ah, nice. Applies to solving Rubik's Cubes, building power plants, tackling national problems.
Exactly. That belief in possibility seems crucial.
Well, that was quite the deep dive, wasn't it? We've covered a lot of ground. Nigerian news, global stuff, surprising facts.
Yeah, a real snapshot of a country dealing with big economic and social issues, making policy changes, celebrating local wins.
All against that backdrop of human ingenuity and, well, the importance of things like friendship.
It's complex, but also really revealing how interconnected it all is, even just looking at one day's worth of stories.
So as you go about your day, maybe think about how these different threads, tax laws, refinery issues, solving puzzles, the health impact of loneliness, how they all weave together.
Yeah, what does this snapshot tell you about resilience, about governance challenges, and those surprising links between, say, your personal health and global affairs?
Lots to chew on. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.